Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Coffee with Eddie. This is episode 96, and my name is Eddie Campos with Remax Preferred Associates. Today we're going to interview Toledo Mayor Wade Kapszukiewicz, and we're going to ask him what has Toledo accomplished since he's become mayor. So Mr. Mayor, since you've taken over as our 58th mayor, what has Toledo accomplished since that time?
Well, it's been a little over 2 years, about 2 years and 1 month. And I think we've accomplished quite a lot. We really have. When I became mayor, I inherited a $3 million budget deficit. 2 years later, we have a little surplus. It's a nice size surplus, actually. Our rainy day fund, it wasn't too long ago that we actually had a negative rainy day fund. And you might be saying, how can you have a negative rainy day fund? Well, a negative rainy day fund means that not only do you have no money in the bank, but you are literally paying bills to this person by taking away money you owe to that person. That's where we were 10 years ago.
I think the phrase paying Peter to...
Paying Peter to pay Paul, or
Yeah.
robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
Robbing Peter to pay Paul. Now, we have a rainy day fund of almost $24 million. Crime is down. I know it might not feel that way sometimes, and goodness knows we struggle with gun violence the same way every big city in America does. But if you can isolate gun violence, crime in 2019 was 7% lower than it was in 2018. And in 2018, it was lower than it was in 2017. So there has been a steady decline in crime. We've had some wonderful economic development news. Not only is our unemployment rate below 4%, which is really rare for the city of Toledo, to be honest. The city is usually significantly above the national rate and the state rate. We are tracking right along with the unemployment rate in the state.
During the late 90s, early 2000, was the city ever at that low of an unemployment rate? Do you
I would have to go back and check, but it would surprise me.
Yeah.
This is about as low an unemployment rate as we've had probably in 50 years. And that has been buoyed by some major economic development news. We, for the second straight year, we're ranked third in the country by Site Selection magazine for cities our size in terms of economic development. We're fourth in the country in terms of construction jobs, and I think we're fifth in the entire country among cities of any size in year-over-year growth in manufacturing jobs. So that is part of what has fueled a strong economy. So those have all been accomplishments, but I think legislatively, or maybe I guess if you look at it, view from 20,000 feet, probably the most significant thing that we've accomplished in my first 2 years is something, I'll be really honest, people told me we'd never accomplish, and that is putting together that regional water deal. That was such a major, that was so significant to our community. The fact of the matter is, fresh water, is the greatest resource we have in this region. 1/5 of all the fresh water on planet Earth is located right out that window right there in the Great Lakes. And unfortunately, for too many years, those of us in Northwest Ohio have fought over it, and this goes back 50, 60 years, countless mayors, countless city council, we've been fighting over it. Proof that we've been fighting over it was the mere existence of the city of Oregon. The city of Oregon only exists because the politicians 60 years ago couldn't agree on water. Essentially, Toledo offered its water to this new town, this unincorporated area, and said, sure, you can have our water if you agree to let Toledo annex you. And they said, no thanks, we'll build our own plant and we'll create our own city and we'll call it Oregon. So that is just an indication of how long we've been fighting about water. So one of my real, what I'm most proud of in terms of a legislative accomplishment is once and for all creating a regional water network that involves all of our customers. We didn't lose a single customer. We went 9 for 9. The 9 customers who got their water from Toledo 2 years ago under the old system, they're all still getting their water from Toledo. Now there were no defectors. No one's getting their water from Detroit or the aquifer in Indiana, all those things that were real serious threats to our system. We were able to put that behind us and approach regional water in the spirit of cooperation, and togetherness, frankly, that we should. We will sink or swim, no pun intended, we're going to sink or swim as a region. And to be able to put together a regional water plan that Maumee and Sylvania and Perrysburg and Monroe County, they all bought into it. Nobody thought we could do it. It has eluded our region for 60 years. And so to be able to accomplish that is very satisfying.
You know, you and I were speaking about the West Wing earlier, and in one of the episodes, they always talk about you don't understand the value of things till they're gone. It's those 99-cent things, and here we have the Great Lakes in our backyard, and we've just taken it for granted until a few years ago when we realized that it's not always going to be healthy for us. You know, we're going to have to do something to make changes.
It's the greatest advantage that this part of the country has. And what have we done? We've fought over it, and we've polluted it. We've polluted it so badly that, every summer, late summer, when the water gets warm, toxic algal blooms pop up. Right. So that's how we've treated our greatest resource. And that is not that's not a way to win the future. We need to think of ourselves increasingly regionally. That's why regional water is such a big deal. And by the way, I'm glad that we accomplished it on regional water. Let's use the same model to try to cooperate on public transportation, economic development, 911, maybe fire service, or who knows, there's so many opportunities to work together. If we really got clever, we would think about the Great Lakes region as the entire region of this country. If we could think about that as its own country, if we could somehow cooperate as a region, as the Great Lakes region, it would be the fourth largest GDP in the world. If you thought of the Great Lakes and the communities around the Great Lakes as its own economy, it would be the fourth largest economy on planet Earth.
That's amazing.
So we need to stop fighting over it. We need to stop polluting it. Unfortunately, this world is getting thirstier and thirstier. Let's just say it bluntly. I mean, you look at India and China and sub-Saharan Africa. I mean, the population explosion. To say that our own country, where maybe there's not as much of a humanitarian need, but there are wildfires in California, and they're rationing water in Arizona and Nevada. Obviously, we saw what happened in Australia. Over the next 100 years, fresh water will become the most valuable commodity on planet Earth. Well, guess what? The most valuable commodity on planet Earth is in our backyard. That's what the Great Lakes are. And if we could harness that energy, this region of the country, call it what you want, the Snow Belt, the Rust Belt, the Great Lakes, and I know some of those terms are pejorative, we can be the most dynamic, strongest, wealthiest region of the country and among the most successful and wealthiest regions on planet Earth. Water will be the #1 most valuable commodity on planet Earth in 100 years. It will have surpassed oil, which right now is the most valuable commodity on Earth. In some ways, you could think of where we are today the way people think of Saudi Arabia right now. When you think of Saudi Arabia, what do you think oil, and boy, that's such a valuable part of the world. That's what this region will be in about 100 years, when fresh water, already people are desperate for it, but in 100 years or so, if the trends continue, it will be incredible. There will be nothing on Earth more valuable. We can't squander that, and that's why regional water is important. That's why we need to do better making sure that agricultural runoff doesn't turn our water into toxic algae, and there's not enough we can do to protect that resource.
Well, I think a testament to you and the team of people that were involved in trying to make this all happen is to not only see that the 9 customers agreed to it, but publicly they've gone out and said that they're happy with it.
Oh, absolutely. They all, look, it was the product of negotiation, just like anything else. We had to sit down and, the law directors of all the communities had to talk it through, and the utility experts, the folks running the water departments in the various cities, the political leadership, the mayors, had to build trust. And look, I know what had gone wrong. That mistrust had built up over the years. Years, if not decades, of hurt feelings and perceived slights had created a scar tissue so well developed that it made shaking hands very difficult. So we just had to get past that, and someone sort of had to be the grown-up. Someone had to just put that stuff aside and do what was best for the region. And I was glad, again, I just played a real small part of it, but I was glad to do it. And in those communities, this was a good deal for them too. I mean, this is a good deal is a deal that works for everyone. In sports, you know,
In real estate?
Yeah. They say in sports, the best trades are the trades that both teams win. You know, well, this regional water deal was good for Toledo, but it was also good for Maumee and Sylvania and Perrysburg and all the rest. It was good for everyone. Sure. And that's why not only did they sign on, but those city councils passed it unanimously. Our city council passed it unanimously. I think every city council passed it unanimously. There may have been one defector on Perrysburg City Council, but I might be remembering that wrong. But no, this was overwhelming support across the board, and that's an indication of a good deal that was negotiated fairly for everyone.
Well, it feels good to have that behind us.
I agree.
Thanks for tuning in to Coffee with Eddie. If you'd like to find out more or watch more videos, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn.